Are you listening?
Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Report.
Damn.
Thank you so much for being here this week. My name is Brian Chappelle, and a lot has happened since we last talked. A leaked Xbox controller has confirmed the existence of both the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. Fortnite was banned from the iOS App Store and Google Play Store, resulting in Epic Games launching a lawsuit against both Apple and Google. Halo Infinite has been delayed until 2021, and Apex Legends announced Season 6 of content, which includes new skins, new weapons, a new crafting system, and a brand new legend named Rampart, which, hello! But despite all of that, for this week's episode, I want to talk to you about the 1983 Famicom video game console, and how... Okay, now that the fake gamers are gone, let's talk about what I really want to discuss. China. China is currently home to 1.4 billion people, and of that population, over 640 million of them identify as gamers. And to explain how insane that number is, the United States currently has a population of 328 million people. China's gaming population is nearly double the size of the entire United States. In fact, according to the ESA, America is home to over 164 million gamers. So for every one American who plays video games, China has 6. And as you can imagine, China has become a very lucrative market for video games. In 2019, China was responsible for over $34 billion in video game revenue, which is roughly 28% of the entire video game industry. And for comparison, the United States spent $35 billion that same year. Meaning two things. One, despite America having 1/6 of the gaming population of China, we outspent them, so F's in the chat for our wallets. And two, the potential for market growth in the Chinese video game market is massive, especially when you take the overall revenue from that country and divide it by the amount of gamers in that market, which gives you a rudimentary potential revenue generated per gamer. For America, the average gamer resulted in roughly $213, whereas in China, the average gamer generated roughly $53. And there are plenty of companies taking notice of this. In fact, here in America, when it comes to gaming, we often talk about companies like PlayStation, Xbox, or even Nintendo. However, all of those companies pale in comparison to the Chinese video game company Tencent. And if you're like me, you're probably thinking, hey, isn't that the company whose logo shows up before Clash of Clans? And the quick answer to that is yes. Tencent is extremely present in mobile gaming. However, in recent years, the company has made some massive moves to make its presence felt throughout the entire world of gaming. In fact, Tencent is the world's largest video game company, and their history includes things like buying Riot Games, the developer behind League of Legends and Valorant. In 2012, Tencent acquired a 40% ownership in Epic Games, the creator of the Unreal Engine and Fortnite, along with acquiring a 5% ownership in Ubisoft. And in 2019, Tencent acquired a 5% ownership in Activision Blizzard, the company who makes Overwatch, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, and Candy Crush. And I guess the point that I'm trying to get to is that for a company who the majority of gamers have no clue even existed, Tencent has their reach in almost everything that is popular in the world of gaming, which on the surface level seems perfectly fine. However, it brings a massive red flag into question. Tencent is a Chinese company. A Chinese company who has been accused multiple times of improper data collection on Chinese citizens on behalf of the Chinese government. So figuratively speaking, what is to stop Tencent from providing the Chinese government with our personal data while playing League of Legends, Call of Duty, Fortnite, or Valorant? And I get it, that is a big what if. However, these exact same accusations became so prevalent that in 2018, when Epic Games announced the Epic Games Store, there was massive concern that due to a 40% ownership by Tencent, the Epic Games Store could be used as a form of spyware that could be accessed by the Chinese government. Which, I get it, it's 2020, and I'm sure that every American government agency has some type of spy tracking software on me, but It seems extremely sinister when it's a country who's in the middle of a massive genocide. A country who randomly takes Uyghur people from their home and puts them into internment camps. And when confronted on this, they pretend like those camps don't even exist. Which I clearly went off the deep end right there. I mean, you were probably hoping that this week's episode would have been about something like Fall Guys and how those little jelly beans are so freaking adorable. I mean, look at them. Look at their little legs just trying to make it to the finish line. And if that was the episode that you were hoping for, I apologize. Because unwarranted data collection is a huge issue. In fact, we're dealing with a similar story right now in America with TikTok, where multiple security companies are warning about the abnormally large amount of data that is collected while using TikTok, along with the fact that TikTok is indeed a Chinese company who could provide that data to the Chinese government, which could lead to things like manipulation, disinformation, or even social control. So when you have so many popular video games who are not only influenced but are partially owned by a Chinese company like Tencent, it raises some serious red flags. And in their defense, there have certainly been plenty of companies who've come out to say that despite partial ownership by Tencent, they have no influence on how they run their business. In fact, the CEO of Epic Games, Tim Sweeney, stated, "I'm the controlling shareholder in Epic Games, and have been since 1991. We have a number of outside investors now. Tencent is the largest. All of Epic's investors are our friends and partners. None can dictate decisions to Epic." But that hasn't stopped the influence of big money in China from changing the way that developers behave or even act. And probably the best example of this was during the Hong Kong protests, when thousands of protesters took to the street to protest the Chinese government from influencing Hong Kong's laws or politics. And these protests took center stage in the world of gaming when esports player Blitz Chung ended his post-game speech by saying, "Liberate Hong Kong. Revolution of our age," which resulted in Blizzard, the developer of Hearthstone, banning Blitzchung from competition for a year and taking away any prize money that he had won that season. And why would Blizzard, an American company who is owned by Activision Blizzard, who Tencent has a 5% ownership in, ban a player for expressing their opinion against the Chinese government? You know, it's almost like they were afraid. Starting to make sense. As we mentioned earlier, China represents a massive market for video game developers. And if the Chinese government isn't happy with what you say or what you allow in your games, they will ban you. And if you thought American cancel culture was bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. In 2018, the Chinese government threatened to ban Fortnite, League of Legends, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, H1Z1, and 13 other games until they addressed things like overly revealing female characters, blood and gore, vulgar content, and distorted concepts of history and culture. Which is weird because that covers like 99% of video games. Overly revealing female characters? Where do I start? Blood and gore? Hell, I had that for breakfast. Vulgar content? Just jump into any random game lobby on the Xbox. Distorted concepts of history and culture? Assassin's Creed 3 literally has you fight George Washington over a golden apple. Now, China justified these potential bans as being part of their new initiative led by the Online Ethics Review Committee to eliminate moral hazard from gaming. But the Chinese government didn't stop there. In 2019, out of fears over video game addiction running rampant among the youth of China, the Chinese government implemented new guidelines where gamers under the age of 18 were banned from playing video games after 10 p.m. at night, along with being limited to playing 90 minutes a day on weekdays and up to 3 hours on holidays or weekends. These new regulations would also prohibit anyone from playing video games that depict gore, sexually explicit material, violence, or even gambling. And to ensure that China could enforce these rules, they announced plans for a new unified identification system, which would allow them to verify the identity of players, along with keeping track of game time across multiple platforms. And during the 2020 China Joy Convention, a government official announced real name verification, which would require gamers to use real names while gaming instead of gamer tags, to allow the government to keep track of player activity. And this isn't that far off, because real name verification is being implemented into China this September. Which means for Chinese gamers, the government knows what you play, when you play, how you play it, and for how long. And if a developer refuses to implement any of these tracking tools or enforce them, their game will not be playable in China, creating one of the most intrusive and restrictive places to be a gamer. Which, for China, I mean, it's just par for the course, because, again, I remind you, this is a country who is currently in the middle of implementing a genocide on its own people. And while being outraged over a country's overreach by limiting video game playtime and restricting overly sexualized images is understandable, let's be clear. The bigger issue here is obviously that the Chinese government has active internment camps, and they are forcing the Uyghur people into slave labor. Which, this is just us skimming the surface here. I mean, if you really want to know what is happening, please, I implore you to educate yourself. I am just a host of a gaming news channel. This is a much larger issue than anything we've ever talked about on the show. But to take a page out of Blitzchung's playbook, justice for the Uyghur people. This is indeed the biggest human injustice of our generation. And now that I have been completely banned from China, that's going to be it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching, and until next week, stay safe, everyone. Hey, thanks again for checking out our channel. Are you like the thousands of people in the comment section down below wondering why does this channel have so little subscribers? Well, you can fix that today by subscribing to the channel, liking the video, commenting, and sharing it with your friends, which I know sounds like a lot, but I feel like our channel is worth it.